Good Christmas Eve, everyone. Jay Farrar filling in for Elias this holiday. Well, it's not really a holiday, but Christmas Eve kind of feels like a holiday, doesn't it? And of course, because it's the holiday season, it gets us thinking about giving. But not all giving does the same good, apparently. Instead of measuring impact only in dollars or lives saved, the Happier Lives Institute looks at happiness itself. It uses a metric to ask a simple question. How much does a donation actually improve someone's quality of life? I'm sure we often think about that when we're donating during the holidays. Here in Canada, especially in Quebec, people give differently, often smaller amounts, but with strong community engagement, local engagement. So how do our local values fit with global, evidence-based giving? We're joined by Dr. Michael Plant, founder of the Happier Lives Institute, to explore how well-being science, as they call it, can help our holiday donations go further. Dr. Plant, thank you so much for joining me here on a Christmas Eve. I really appreciate it.
I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I was wondering if you could tell the audience exactly what effective altruism is and what its philosophical connection is with the Happier Lives Institute.
So effective altruism is an idea. The idea is that we should try and do the most good, use evidence and reason, that some ways of doing good are much better than others, so we should use our heart and our head. And it's also a community, so people get together to discuss how they can improve their lives. There are conferences and so on. And the way it relates to effective altruism is, so the way that the Happy Lives Institute relates to effective altruism is that this organization, which I set up about 6 years ago, just after finishing a philosophy PhD, my organization came through this movement. We thought, this is a great idea. Let's make a big difference with our lives. We can argue with that. But, why aren't we looking at the impact that charities have on people's happiness? And my little team, we were the first people to try and do happiness cost effectiveness. And we've been pioneering ever since, and we found some quite amazing things.
So it kind of differentiates between focusing on outcomes rather than intentions when it comes to what we give. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So, lots of charitable giving is understandably about what people are passionate about, what cause speaks to you. But another way you could approach it is, well, you actually want to think how much impact you have for the money that goes into the charity. Mm-hmm. This time of year, we're really thinking about our own happiness or our friends and family flourishing. We're thinking about value for money, including for our Christmas presents. So why don't we just apply that to our charitable thinking? How do we make the biggest difference to other people's happiness with the money we have to spare?
The Happier Lives Institute, as you mentioned, of course, focuses on happiness and well-being. Can you explain a little bit further why happiness matters as a measure of impact and how your metric works? I know that you've put in a metric into this and how that works.
Yeah, I find I don't really have to convince people that happiness matters. I just need to remind them it's what really matters. Things like income and health, these are means to an end. But, what do we want? What do parents say they want for their children? Ultimately, it's happiness, not to be suffering. Mm-hmm. So why can't we cut to the chase and just focus on that? So we have a measure of happiness called the Well-Being Life Year, or WellBe, which is sort of maybe more straightforward than it sounds. So if I ask you how satisfied you are with your life on a 0 to 10 scale, and let's say you went from a 6 to a 7 for 1 year, that would be one WellBe. So it's just a 1 point increase for one person for 1 year. Mm-hmm. And the UK Treasury uses the same thing to try and assess policies. So it's a new idea. The term was only coined a few years ago, but we think it has enormous power because it allows us to compare otherwise different things, measure really what matters, and make a big difference.
And you could see how people, and you mentioned that at the beginning there, that how some people would say, well, that's so subjective. You give me a lottery ticket and I win, I may be happy. But it more has to do with easing suffering more than it does the actual feeling of happiness. Is that correct?
Well, happiness is subjective. Your pain is subjective, your joy is subjective. And I say, hey, let's focus on that. Like if you gave money to charity and on paper, it made someone's life better, but they were no happier or no less miserable, I think you'd be disappointed. Mm-hmm. We have this sort of materialistic focus in our societies. I think we should go beyond that. Let's get to what's really important.
So how would someone prioritize their holiday donations to fit the benefits of that metric?
Well, thank you for asking me that question. So me and my crack team of nerds have been comparing charities like this the last 6 years. So we compare charities all around the world. We think everyone's happiness, should just matter as much as anyone else's. And after 6 years, the charities we found that are most effective are things like, these are all in the global south, like treating depression, taking the poisonous metal lead out of cosmetics, and child malnutrition. Mm-hmm. So if for 70 Canadian dollars, you can provide a 6-week course of therapy to someone in, say, Uganda. This could be absolutely life-changing. These people would be very poor and very depressed. They're almost all women. And this can get someone back on their feet, allow them to look after their family. If you had a friend who was suffering from depression, basically all of us had, you think, well, what would I give to make a difference to that person? And you can do that for not a huge amount of money. And so we do this analysis. We publish it on our website. It's all for free. We do it so that we can help people, help other people. We provide recommendations. If you want to make decisions yourself, we've just launched a fund. So you send us your money, and then we will just reallocate it to where we think it has the biggest impact. And what we've found, just this research came out in the last year, is that these top charities, we reckon, are about 1,000 times more impactful than the average charity in a rich country. So that's actually quite incredible. And if that's blowing your mind, that means you're normal. Yeah. So we also did some research to find out, what do people expect? And people expect the best charities are 3 times more impactful than the average ones. Wow. So, that we live in a strange world. This is what the best data says so far. And we think it should be good news. It means we can have a much bigger difference than you might have expected without having to sacrifice a huge amount. So if you gave, $10 to a really effective charity, that would have the same impact as giving $10,000 to a charity that might be locally. So maybe you want to give something to a local charity, but please give some. Please think about how you can make the biggest difference with your money and give some share of your giving to the things which might not be incredibly exciting or pull on your heartstrings, but you recognise if you give with heart and head, are going to really make the biggest difference.
There's one focus of your research that really caught my eye, and it has to do with you identify charities that tackle mental health, crime prevention, toxic lead reduction, as they call it, as particularly cost-effective in increasing well-being. How do these compare in terms of impact with more conventional life-saving charities? I love the neuroscience aspect to this.
So we focus on charities that improve people's lives,
right?
And then another option, which is quite understandably a credible alternative, is focusing on saving people's lives. And so I'm a philosopher, and when I think about these in comparing them, these are sort of a bit like apples to oranges comparison. It's a bit difficult to have a simple rate of exchange as to think how much do you value a life compared to improving a life. Mm-hmm. So that's so with the stuff we do for improving lives, we can do that with data, and that's what I think is really remarkable. But to go from improving lives to saving lives, that's more of a value judgment if you want to do what you want to do. And so if your listeners are really keen on kind of extending people's lives, of course it's not possible to literally save a life. We've all got to go sometime. Then there's an organisation called GiveWell, which is really good for life-saving charities. And we're doing this different thing, which is trying to improve people's lives, improve their quality of life. And, that's what gets me up in the morning. And I think it's the most important thing. But, I understand that not everyone's going to agree with that, and I respect that.
Finally, on a local level, here in Quebec, we are concentrated on local causes. People have a tendency here, especially in Quebec and the rest of Canada, to support local causes they know and care about. Others want to maximize measurable impact in global well-being, of course, but here in Quebec, we seem to be concentrated more on the local stuff we know about. How should donors think about balancing local priorities with evidence-guided global opportunities, especially during the holiday season and beyond?
Well, I think of sort of your the money you spend in three buckets. The first bucket is basically the money you spend on yourself, maybe your family. The second bucket is sort of local, sort of passion-based altruism, and then the third bucket is kind of global altruism. Causes that might not be so sexy, but where you think, look, actually, this really doesn't really. And then there's a question for you as to how you want to split your resources. I mean, I'm sympathetic to people who want to support local stuff. I probably won't be sending my money to Quebec, but I might send it to where I live in Bristol in England. Yeah. But I think if you're kind of a citizen who kind of a global citizen, you think like, look, people matter. There's something we should do for people, even if they don't live next to us, even if we don't know their names. Then I think you want to put something in your global bucket, and then we provide recommendations for people who are drawn to that. And we do incredibly detailed analysis of the charities to work out how much impact they produce for other people for the money you put in, so that you don't have to. I mean, we recognise it's complicated, but we try and make it easier for people and do the heavy lifting on your behalf.
Dr. Plant, I thank you so much for being generous with your time today, and I'm a big fan of your initiative right now. So thank you so much for doing that and sharing. Where could people find out more about the Happier Lives Institute?
We have a website, believe it or not. I know that's a bit modern, but you can find all the information on the website. You can find the charities to donate to, and if you want to maximise your impact for minimum fuss, I'd recommend the Happier Lives Fund to your listeners. And I hope they donate. If they donate, I may follow them up and ask to chat to some of them. So I'm banking on the generosity of you good Canadians, and it's been lovely to chat to you.
Oh, that's awesome! I'd give anything to chat with a great philosopher. That'd be a lot of fun, wouldn't it? Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Plant. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Dr. Michael Plant, director and founder of the Happier Lives Institute.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years.
And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.